12 years. For 12 long years, she had been bleeding. At first, she thought it would pass, like any other ailment. But days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and then into years. It never stopped. She had seen every physician she could afford. At first, they gave her herbs and remedies, promising that she would be well soon. But nothing changed. As the years went by, she spent everything she had, visiting healer after healer, desperate for a cure. Instead of getting better, she grew worse. But it wasn't just her body that suffered. It was her soul. Under the laws of her people, a woman with continuous bleeding was considered unclean. This meant she couldn't touch anyone, and no one could touch her. She was isolated from her community, from her friends, even from the temple where she longed to worship. If she walked through the streets, people stepped away. If she entered a home, everything she touched became unclean. She was alone, forgotten, a ghost among the living. Then one day, she heard a name whispered in the streets: Jesus. They said he was a great teacher, a miracle worker. He had healed a leper with a touch, given sight to the blind, and even commanded the storms to be still. They said he spoke with power, yet with kindness, unlike any rabbi they had ever known. Could he be the one? Hope flickered in her heart, a tiny ember against the cold darkness of despair. News spread quickly. Jesus was coming through her town. The woman's heart pounded. This was her chance. But as she stepped outside, she hesitated. What if someone recognized her? What if they scolded her for being in public? What if they dragged her away before she could reach him? But she had no choice. This was her last hope. With her shawl pulled tightly around her head, she slipped into the crowded streets. The air was thick with dust and the murmurs of excited voices. People had gathered in masses, pressing forward to see Jesus. Her frail body ached, but she pushed on. Step by step, she wove through the crowd, careful not to be noticed. And then, there he was, Jesus. She caught a glimpse of him walking, surrounded by his disciples and the pressing multitude. Her heart leaped. He was close, but there were too many people around him. How could she possibly speak to him? Then a thought entered her mind. I don't need to speak to him. I don't need him to see me. If I can just touch the hem of his garment, I will be healed. It was a bold thought, a dangerous one, and yet faith swelled within her, stronger than her fear. She dropped lower, slipping past people's legs, moving closer. The tassels of his robe swayed just ahead of her. With all the strength she had left, she reached out, and her fingers brushed the edge of his garment. In an instant, everything changed. A surge of warmth rushed through her body. The pain, the weakness, it was gone. She knew it immediately. The bleeding had stopped. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She was healed. She was whole. Overcome with emotion, she barely noticed when Jesus suddenly stopped walking. He turned around. His deep, steady voice carried over the crowd. Who touched me? A hush fell over the people. The disciples looked at him in confusion. Peter spoke up. Master, the crowd is pressing all around you. How can you ask who touched you? But Jesus remained still, his eyes scanning the crowd. I felt power go out from me, he said. Someone touched me. The woman froze. Should she run? Should she hide? But no, she couldn't deny it. She had been healed, and he had noticed. Trembling, she fell at his feet. Tears welled in her eyes as she lifted her voice, broken with gratitude and fear. It was me, Lord. she said. For 12 years, I have suffered. I knew if I could just touch the hem of your garment, I would be healed. And now, her voice called. Now, I am whole. Jesus looked at her, but there was no anger in his gaze, no rebuke, only love. Daughter, he said gently, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction. Daughter, no one had called her that in years. She had been outcast, forgotten. But to Jesus, she was not just another face in the crowd. She was seen, known, loved, and she was free. As Jesus turned to continue his journey, the woman remained kneeling for a moment. The weight she had carried for 12 years, the shame, the pain, the loneliness, was gone. Slowly, she stood, lifting her face to the sky. For the first time in over a decade, she walked without fear, without pain, without shame. She walked as a daughter of faith, forever changed by one touch. And as she disappeared into the crowd, she knew one thing for certain. She would never be the same again. This story is a powerful reminder that no one is beyond the reach of Jesus' love and healing. It teaches us that faith, even the size of a mustard seed, can move mountains. No matter how long you have suffered, no matter how unworthy you feel, when you reach out to him, he sees you. He knows you, and he calls you daughter or son. All it takes is one touch.
Thank you for watching. Kindly like, comment, and subscribe. Click on the notification bell so you can be alerted anytime a new video is uploaded. And please, don't forget, share and be a blessing to someone. God richly bless you. Shalom.